Hey guys, welcome to day number 2 of our bustle making training videos. I'm Jared Whitefish, also known as Jao. Today we're going to be sharing some of our knowledge that we know and collected over the years and bringing it to you, a viewer who wants to make a good set of bustles for their son, their family, whoever. And today we're going to be going over the basics on how to start and what you'll need. So let's get started and let's get to it. So we're going to be going over the basic things that we're going to be using in today's video. First, we have our handy dandy tool here. We're going to be using it on the wooden dowels that you will also need, where you can find at Michael's, Walmart, any craft store. Also, you're going to need turkey spikes, which you can get off of us as well. You're going to need a nice fine point Sharpie pen, which is going to be used for marking the turkey spikes. Also, you're going to be needing a utility knife to be marking the black turkey spikes. And two more things here. We have our masking tape, which is going to be used to tie the wooden dowels to the turkey spikes. And last but not least, our ruler. If you have trouble finding any of these supplies, we have a link on the bottom of this video. Click it and then we can give you the information that you need in order to get that from us. All right, so let's get started with today's video. First things first, we're going to grab our turkey spikes here, and then we're going to briefly take a look at the state that it's in. And we're going to see that there's no frays, there's no cracks or anything, and it's in good quality condition because you want the best looking bustles out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort them from left to right. So here we got two different feathers. They may look the same at first glance, but the thing is that one is left and one is right. And this is how you tell. Our left one, you see, it has more feather on the left side than it does on the right. So that's our left spike. So what we do is we take all the lefts that are going this way and we group them together. And the same thing with the right. All the right side of the feather has more feather. And so we group that as well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pick a side. It doesn't matter which one you start. I'm going to pick this side and we're going to make a guide feather. And our guide feather is going to basically help us along the way to make sure everything's nice and flush and perfect. So before you begin this, make sure to triple check and double check all your measurements, because if you're off by even a little bit, then it'll mess up your whole bustles and you'll have to start all over. So be extra vigilant in your measurements and your cutting and everything. First things first, making this line here, which is a guideline for where you're going to put your holes. So what I like to do is, if you look closely, there's a part here where the hair naturally goes off here. And so what I like to do is I go a little bit underneath that, maybe like a 1/4 inch underneath, and then I make a mark here. And what I'll do now is I'll put this aside. The next thing we do is we grab our handy dandy tool here. We chop that off, grab a dowel, we place it in there. And sometimes when you're placing the dowel inside the spike, it sometimes is too loose. So what a little trick that we do is that we place a little bit of masking tape at the top. And what this does, it adds more stabilization to the feather. And so that's what we're going to do right now. So we do that. And then the next step in our process is to put masking tape here. I know it may seem like masking tape right now is like a really flimsy thing to do, but our methods actually come from a long line of fancy dancers, and it comes from their family, and it's a very good method of making bustles. So here we are. Make sure this is nice and flush. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure from here to here. And the measurements vary depending upon the size of bustles you want. So today we're going to be making the adult set, and also we have the teen set, juniors, and the tiny tot set. And all of the details and the measurements for the different sets are on our page. And we have a link below this video, and we'll probably put a link somewhere within the video to show you the different measurements that you would need. So we're going to be using 7 inches from here down. We're going to be getting our handy dandy ruler here. And so we're going to be measuring 7 from the 0. So 7 inches. So we grab our pen here, mark 7, and we put that down. Then it's time to cut. So we cut that. You can always clean up your mess later, but that's the first part of the bottom half of making your bustles. So this is an adult set. If you were wanting to make a smaller set for your son or junior or tiny tot, then all you'd have to do is shorten the length of the dowel here, or even the turkey spike itself. So we're gonna do one more just to show you and just to try get a better understanding of what we're doing here. So okay, we put that down, we grab our next one here. And so what we're gonna be doing is, since we already got this one, we're gonna put a piece of tape on here just to say like this is our main feather that we're gonna be using, that we're gonna be going off of. So here, what we're gonna be doing is using your guide feather, make sure that your turkey spike is always on the inside, where the big part. So not on this side, but on this side. So your guide feather is always on this side. So what I'd like to do myself is, again, I look at the natural part where it cuts off the hair. And sometimes the turkey spike doesn't have this. And so another step that I add into it is the curve itself. I look at the curve, both sides, and just by looking at it, I can say it's pretty much the same curve. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line those up like so. Make sure that's lined up, and we're going to mark here. So that's ready to go. And next we're gonna grab our dowel. So this one is kind of loose. So we're gonna do the good old masking tape trick. And so there we go, it's nice and steady. Then we're gonna take some more masking tape, wrap it around like so. And when you're doing this, you're gonna wanna add pressure onto the masking tape because you want to make sure everything's tight and secure. So make sure you have that pressure when you're doing the masking tape. So we got the ruler at 0 and we're gonna be measuring at 7. So 7. So we're gonna be cutting that off like so. See, that's why these are so important to have, because they're so easy to cut through. If it was the scissors or something, it would probably be a lot harder. So as you can see, you have to make sure that the measurements are good all the way. So a good way to do that is put them beside each other and look at the lines. Make sure that the lines are flush with one another, and also the curves is flush as well. So I can see from like right now, I can see that it's kind of off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna erase that, and I'm gonna kind of move it up just a tad. So if you look here, there's the hair where it ends. So you have to really make sure that everything is nice and flush and perfect. So the next feathers we're gonna be doing is the black turkey spikes. And for these, since the marker won't be showing up on the black, what we're going to be using is the utility knife to make our marks. So what you want to do is be very careful when you're using this utility knife, not to cut yourself and not to hurt yourself. Just be careful. So what we like to do is we like to take our guide feather, then we like to push it to the right of our guide feather. And then we like to look at see, there's the hair again, where it naturally ends. That's where you line it up. Then you look at the curve, make sure the curve's nice and the same as the guide feather. Then so it's lined up now. So what we do is we make a little mark. Once you have your mark made, you can put this aside and kind of line it up the best you could on the sides so you can see your mark. Because sometimes this marker or this dye comes off easily, flakes off, and you won't be able to see your line. So it's nice to just get it all the way around like this, nice and straight, even Steven. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be clipping the end of this so we have enough room for our dowels to go in. So here's our dowel. What I'm going to be doing is take a little bit of masking tape here, and then I'm going to be putting it on the dowel. When you're doing this, make sure that the dowel never goes past this line. See, if it goes past the line here, then you're gonna have problems, because when you make your holes, you're gonna run into wood. So make sure that before you permanently stick your dowels into the spike, make sure that it doesn't go past the line. So I'm gonna put a little bit more masking tape on here. Slide her in there. And there we go. So we put some more masking tape on there. Also, it's good as well if you have a different color. It's good as well to start another guide feather because it's easier to go off of because the measurement is going to be the same as this one. So that's what I like to do, is make 2 guide feathers. If you have 2 colors, then make 2 guide feathers. So put that down, and we're going to be going on to our next black feather. And so what we're going to be doing here is the exact same thing. So we grab our guide feather, put it side by side. Look for the place where the hair naturally ends. Like, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it naturally ends here. So it's lined up pretty good. Look at the curves nice and even Steven there. Make sure these are lined up good. You want to be able to take your time. That's the #1 rule. So what we're going to be doing here, make sure you have a nice surface, stable surface doing this. Then we're going to be making that mark again right there. So what we're going to do, same thing. We're going to take our dowel here, slide it into the turkey spike. Make sure it's nice and snug, secure fit. Okay, this one didn't need no masking tape, so that's good. So all you have to do is put masking tape on the outside now. It's for it to stay attached to the I know it may seem like it won't hold in the long run, but trust me, it will. This stuff is strong, and it's been proven by many fancy dancers throughout the years. That's basically it. What you do is repeat this process all throughout all your turkey spikes here. And this could take a while, but perfection takes a long time. So I just want you guys to remember that when you're doing this, take your time, measure twice, measure 3 times even, and remember the curve. The curve is important as well. So before we go, I'm gonna do one more turkey spike from this side. And so what I like to do is, if I already got this side done for my turkey spikes, then I grab this guide feather from this side and I put it side by side. And what I do is I turn it over and I look at the hair. You see here, the hair where it naturally ends, that's where you want to line it up. Make sure it's lined up there. When you're doing your bustles, always do your bustles like you have a limited supply of material, because you may have a limited supply. And then when you're making your bustles as if you have a limited supply, you're very careful and precise with your work and how you measure stuff. And so that really adds up in the long run. Okay, got that done. So another trick that I recently learned is when you're cutting the spike itself, in order for the dowel to go in, is that to cut the spike to the same length as all the other ones, like right here would be a good spot. And I'll tell you why in a second. So cut it. It's at the same length, right? So what this does is it adds a evenness to all the spikes on the tape side later on in the taping part of our training videos. And so that makes it all even. So what we're gonna do now, do another dowel. So this one is loose in there. So what we're gonna do is the good old masking tape strip. So what we do is put masking tape at the end here. And sometimes it rips, but you know, you could always put masking tape over this and it'll be good. But it's just as long as it's nice and sturdy, it's in there, it's not going past our mark here. So get some more masking tape here. Masking tape, our best friend. And then we put it on there. Make sure you have pressure on your left hand when you're doing this, whatever your dominant hand is or whatever hand you're using. Make sure you have pressure when you're doing this, because you don't want it to be loose when you're putting it on. Also, sometimes when you're putting it on, you have to make sure that it's not bunching up like that, what it was just doing. So there we go, we got our masking tape on. And so what we're gonna do is get our handy dandy ruler. And so we're gonna measure from our mark here, we're gonna measure 7 again. Make sure you always double check your measurements. Make sure that's where you wanted it to be. So that's 7. We cut it here, nice and easy peasy. What we do is we always have to compare it to our guide feather here. So that's lined up perfect. So this is lined up perfect, ready to go. Since it's this side, what I like to do is make another guide feather. So I'm going to be going off of this one. Our guide feather essentially is used for this part here, our line for making the holes. Next time you pick up the other one, it'll be ready to go here. But what you do is take your guide feather, take your other spike, put it here and compare look in the back, look at where the feather naturally ends. Also the curve, can't forget the curve. When you're doing the curve, always make sure you look at it and see how it's curved, like it's naturally almost spot on there. Also see here, this is a a problem because the hair doesn't naturally end there, it just stops. So that's why the curve, when you're looking the curve this way, that's why it's important to do that. Make sure it's nice and straight, like this part here as well. Make sure it's nice and straight compared to the other one. And so looking at it from here, I can already tell it's already kind of marked it already. So what you do here is take your utility knife, make your marks. And another thing I want to talk about is the length of the spikes. Here it's compared to this, it's shorter. This one's shorter than our guide, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. Even if it's off a little bit, as long as you stay close to the parameters, as long as you're not way the heck up here, way down here, then it's good. Like if you have enough, like if you're down here, you can obviously cut it there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just trim. See how it's looking here? We're just gonna trim the end, then we're gonna put in our dowel. So right away, it's really loose. We're gonna have to put a lot of masking tape on this one. So what we're gonna do is just wrap and wrap. A lot of this bustle making skills is a lot of patience. It's a lot of repetition, doing the same thing over and over. What we're gonna be doing now is we're gonna be taking our handy dandy ruler here, get our pen, and so we're gonna be measuring from our line here and make sure it's right on the line. And then we're going to be measuring 7 down here. And we're going to be doing that. Take this, use our handy dandy tool, cut. Then here we go. What we're always going to want to do, get our guide feather, compare it right away. So the bottoms are good, lines up perfectly with the lines, and the curve is good. The curve is good on this side, so it's good. Also, if you forget that which line do I use here, what you could do is always go to the first guide feather that you made and just kind of compare and see it's the bottom line. And then from there you can kind of already see that the bottom line is where you need to be. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to discuss. It's called our center feathers. And our center feathers is basically the feather that's going to be sitting in the middle of our set of bustles, because on one side is going to be our right side of feathers, the other side is going to be our left side, but sitting in the middle is going to be our one center feather. And how we find a center feather basically is we look through our pile here, and here I already have made one. What we do here is we look for, I'll just look for another one. We'll look for a feather with lots of, like this one here. You see how this feather has a lot of feather on this side as well as this side? So this would be a good center feather. So what we'd do is we'd put C on it, and we're going to be explaining this in a bit here. Actually, I'll explain it right now. So the reason why is because it has a lot of feather on this side, as you can see. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting here the same length as this side onto this side, so it's going to look as one feather. It's going to be looking like this basically. So what you want to do here for the center feather is just basically the same thing that you done to our guide feather. What we do here is you take our guide feather and then you put it on the right side of our guide feather. You look at where the hair naturally ends, naturally cuts off here, and you line it up as perfectly as you can, and you flip it over. And you also look at the curves. Don't forget the curves. Make sure the curves, you see it's nice and how it's straight right here, and then the curves, like, it's perfect. So I already measured it, I already marked it, so good. And so what you do is, seeing as you have enough to cut here, so that's where we're gonna cut to make it nice and even. So cut that off. Okay, so we always had to make sure that this dowel doesn't go past that line, or else we'll run into problems. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more masking tape to the end of this, just so it doesn't go too far deep into the feather. And so do that. And so grab some masking tape like this. Take our ruler. Measure 7 inches from this line down to the base of the dowel. And so right away, when you're done this, take your guide feather, place it side by side and measure. Make sure that they're the exact same. So it's good. Looks pretty measured. Curve's good. So this is done. This is our center feather. And what you want to do with your center feather is really keep an eye on it. Like put it to the side if you want, or else put C on it like I have, just to say that's your center feather and that's what you're going to be using for the center. That's basically all we're going to be doing for today. That's all for today. And I thank you guys very much for all your time and patience. And I hope I explained everything good. I'm not a very good expert explainer of things, but this is the way I've learned how to make a set of bustles. So just continue the same method all through the whole set of spikes that you have. Or if you don't have these spikes or if you don't have any of these supplies, click the link below and it will give you some information on a bustle kit that you can order from us, that it'll give you some turkey spikes, hackles, wooden dowels, zip ties, and more. So with that being said, hi, thank you, and peace. Have a good day.